Hello and welcome. My name's Karina Kalila and this is an introduction to Rebirthing Breathwork. In this video I'm going to share a little bit about what Rebirthing Breathwork is. I'm then going to share a little bit about my experience about Rebirthing Breathwork, and then we're going to do a short experience of what it feels like. So I will be instructing you into a Rebirthing Breathwork session. What you will need for this session is to be sitting comfortably and perhaps even somewhere really nice to lie down. Maybe you might like to get a bolster underneath your knees. So you might like to pause this video just to set that up so that you can make the transition from the chair into the lying down position quickly. I'm going to start by saying that this is my passion. It is completely transformed me and my life, and I'll get to that a little bit later. And it thrills me, the idea of introducing this modality to a wider audience, because I feel that breath is the medicine of the body. It is the medicine that the body has it naturally installed inside itself, and it's a forgotten tool. It's something that we have forgotten that we can use to heal ourselves on an emotional level, on a physical level, and on an energetic level. So what is Rebirthing Breathwork? Rebirthing Breathwork is conscious connected breathing through the nose, and I'll do a little demonstration a little bit later on. What that means is that we start to breathe like a cycle or a circle. And when you're breathing like a circle, what ends up happening is there's this movement of energy inside you, and I'm going to speak to energy first. When you breathe in, you're pulling in more prana, more oxygen. And when you're breathing out, you're letting go of everything that's not serving, like the stuck energy that's inside your body. And so the demonstration, just really quickly, and don't worry, you don't need to know this just now. I'm going to share a bit more about it a little bit later on. So a little demonstration goes like this. I'm going to pause because I can already feel the effects. And so, as you might have noticed, there's no pause at the top of the breath and no pause at the bottom of the breath. And this connected style drops the body into a really deep state of relaxation. And because you're breathing in and out through your nose, the body naturally drops into a state of parasympathetic nervous response, which means rest and restore and repair. So at the very least, someone will experience a deep meditation. And I would say that would be at the very least of what someone can experience during a Rebirthing Breathwork session. So when we breathe in this way, no pause at the top, no pause at the bottom, as I was saying, it's almost like we're pouring more oxygen or more prana into the body, and that starts to move any stuck energy in the body. And I think the beautiful thing about this is that the body never releases more than it's ready to. And so in this way, breath is medicine, because we only ever release what the body and mind and spirit and soul on all levels of the person and all levels is ready to release and let go of. So during a session, what a person may experience, as I said, is at the very least a meditation, a deep meditation. Other things that people may experience is tingles, change in temperature, heat or cool. You might experience heightened sensation in one part or in many parts of the body. This is often quite a common experience. And often because people are not so used to experiencing sensation, pop a pill and have the headache or pain in the body somewhere go away, we're in avoidance of sensation in our body. And so oftentimes when people are new to rebirthing, this is a little bit confronting because the body springs to life and all the sensations that you experience are already in your body. So what that means is often the sensations are there, they're just buried in our subconscious. So we're so used to having them there that you don't often feel them on an everyday basis. So it's quite common for old injuries to spark alive, and that doesn't mean to be re-injured. What that means is the energy around that injury starts to move, and so there might be that injury, and I point to my shoulder because that's where I've had an injury in the past. The injury might sort of spasm, and essentially what's happening is the breath is helping to clear whatever stuck or stagnant energy is still in that space. Additionally, sometimes the energy can get so intense that the sensations get quite intense. Now, what I often find is when we lean into those sensations, that's when the true transformation happens. And in saying that though, even if a person doesn't lean all the way into a sensation, doesn't mean that they're not going to transform. So on an energetic level, what happens when a person breathes is the energy begins to move around the body. And over the course of 10 or more sessions, a person actually gets to learn how to maneuver and manipulate their own energy, or their own energy within their body. And so I suppose in this way we become alchemists, being able to transform what was into what will be. And how that translates into the mind stuff is, because we're moving energy, the beliefs that are connected to that energy that you are moving starts to shift as well. So it's quite common for people to start believing that they are worthy, that they are enough, that they are lovable, because there is something in them that is shifting. And so we overcome the belief systems of not being lovable, of not being enough, of not being worthy. And so that allows us to step into greater appreciation for who we are and a greater sense of empowerment. On a physical level, as I said, the body will start to move, and often shaking, shimmying, and this is often in a full session, and you probably won't experience it today. However, if you do experience a full session, often people will shake and shimmy, and it's a sign that the body is moving the energy. And I love this because the body is so intelligent. And if you're here, you've probably had an experience of that intelligence. And so because the body is so intelligent, the body knows how to move the energy on its own. And I think it's bringing that awareness, or your awareness, to that movement. And in that way you become an alchemist of your own being. So other things people can experience during a session, they might experience memories come up, or aha moments about particular scenarios or sensations, traumatic events in your life. Perhaps you might get clarity around your direction or your purpose, and it's healing both for the past, and it's also really a tool for gaining clarity of your future and gaining the confidence that you need to take the steps forward into your being your best and brightest self. The other things that can happen, a person might experience visions. They might drop so deep into a state of consciousness that it's almost like this restful state of being. Often people come out and they say, I think I fell asleep, but I wasn't asleep. And often that's like this space in between, a void space, that people get access to when they are in a really deep state or during the breathwork session. So all of these things that happen to the body, I suppose I could share that this is the part one, if you will. So breathing, the breathwork session, is part one. Part two is what happens after. Once the energy settles, once the body, mind, and soul become integrated once again, sometimes that takes an hour, sometimes that takes several hours, sometimes that takes a day. What people find is that they become really deeply connected to source and spirit. They become really deeply connected to themselves. They're more able to hear and receive messages, omens about their life. It is a really deeply spiritual journey. Not only that, on the physical level, sometimes the energy can move so much that it sort of shifts old, stuck physical stuff in the body, and so often people might feel, or it happens sometimes, people might feel really lethargic after a session, or people might feel really elated. So what I've just described to you is what people will experience during a full session. Today we're just doing an introduction, so you won't experience as much. Some of these things might come, but because we're only doing about a 5-minute journey, you may only experience perhaps tingle around your lips or around your hands or around your feet. So my experience with Rebirthing Breathwork, I had anxiety and depression and have since found out that I had undiagnosed PTSD. And breathwork and sound healing came to me. And they came to me in the week before I was to get hearing aids, because I had been in denial for about 3 years prior to this that I was losing my hearing. My hearing became so bad, I think because of the anxiety, depression, PTSD, and my shame around that, just to speak really vulnerably, I think I caused my own hearing deficiency. And I'll share with you why. Because in this session, and I think timing is amazing, because had it have been a week later, I wouldn't have noticed as much because I would have had the hearing aids. But the week before, I was 50% loss of hearing, and I went into the sound healing, and I noticed that I could feel it better than I could hear it. I could feel moving of energy around my body, and I wasn't even breathing. I could just sense this like vibrational experience inside my body. So I decided to get a private session. And the private session I didn't realize was a breathwork session. I thought I was going in for a 2-hour sound healing. And so my teacher, he said, okay, we're going to do breathwork today. And I said, okay. And the experience of my breathwork session, my first ever session, was absolutely profound. I had memories of my childhood. I had memories of being about 3 months old and making sense as to how or why I'd been such an anxious person. And the most beautiful thing about that session was right at the very end of that session, I could hear really clearly for about 5 minutes. What happened was there were all these sounds in my ears, which is quite common for me. I'd get these different sounds. And so the sound started really low and went really, really high, and then nothing. And all of a sudden I could hear a pin drop in the other room. I could hear the birds outside, which I hadn't heard in a long time. I could hear, conversations happening next door. And at the time, I wouldn't be able to hear outside of about 1 meter diameter of myself. So for me to have this experience of hearing, it was like the first, oh my goodness, revelation that perhaps I'd created that experience on my own. And to a degree, I think that I had, and that I also had the predisposition to that experience in my life. I think on some level my soul definitely wanted to experience this. So I became a facilitator after doing a few years of mentoring, and I moved to Bali and became a sound healer. I'm now creating music on Spotify, and these are all things that, let alone speaking in front of a camera, these are all things that I would never have considered myself being able to do. And I really put it down to Rebirthing Breathwork, that has been the moving factor that's helped me to really actualize my full potential and to show up in a way that allows others to do the same. So without further ado, I would like to have you experience Rebirthing Breathwork. And what we're going to do is 2 rounds of 20 breaths. And as I demonstrated before, what you'll be doing is breathing in through the nose, and then you'll drop from the belly. And because I'm standing up, it might look a little bit forced. There's no force or push. A force or push will look like this. Big difference, right? And this is not hyperventilation, by the way. So the pace is nice and gentle and slow. Hyperventilation, you're forcing the breath. Whereas this is just a breath in, followed by a breath out. And the breath out is just a relaxation of the diaphragm. So if you would like, before you lie down, I'm going to invite you just to join me with the breath. So when you're ready, breathing in. And hold the breath at the bottom on the breath out. Hold for 3, 2, 1. Take a full breath in. And let it go. And so, that's the first round. What I'm going to invite you to do is lie down and we'll do the second round together. You may already feel tingling in your hands and your feet. You may also notice a shift in your consciousness just slightly. So when you're ready, I'm going to invite you to lie down, or you may like just to remain seated. We'll start by closing the eyes. Take a deep breath in. Sigh it out first, let it go. When you're ready, breathe in. Hold the breath out. Hold and pause. And just notice what you can feel in your body. Notice the pulsing of energy. You might like to return back to a natural flow of breath. Notice if your ego mind interjects and decides that the sensations are strong or too much, or that there's fear that arises because of those sensations. Notice that this is a normal response to experiencing breathwork for the first time. Notice the shift in your consciousness. And as you draw your energy and attention inward, just welcoming any sensations or emotions that may be present. Noticing if there is any agitation that has risen up. Just welcoming that in by saying a hello to yourself on the inside. You are welcome here. You are enough. You are lovable. And you belong. Take a deep breath in. Open your mouth. If you've been lying down, slowly make your way up to a comfortable seat. And if you're seated, you may like to slowly open your eyes. You might like to start by looking down. And then slowly bringing your eyes upward. If you wish to share your experience, you can leave it in the comments, if that's appropriate. And if you have any questions or queries, no hesitation in reaching out and getting in touch. My name's Karina Kalila. My Instagram name is karina.kalila, Karina. Actually, it's just below. Thank you so much for joining me today for this class, for this introduction to Rebirthing Breathwork. I hope that it touched you in some way, and I hope that you received a transmission from what I shared. Thank you so much for joining me. Namaste.